Welcome to the Joy Talk Show. We're so glad that you could join us today. So go ahead and grab a cup of tea or coffee or whatever you like to drink and join us because we're going to fill you up. Yes, so I'm Cindy Sheridan. I live in San Diego, California, and I'm here with my friends, Tracy, Cynthia, and Pam. All right, ladies. So today we are going to talk about American heritage. We thought with the 250th anniversary of celebrating America's independence, it would be really great to share our background, where our families come from, and what it means for us as Americans to live in America, to live in the amazing United States of America. So we're excited to be here with you and excited to share. So, who would like to share first?
Well, I'm so excited. So I'm going to open my big mouth and be like, I did let the host know if she needs to cut me off, she can just cut me off because I'm so excited, as is everyone. I know Tracy's been telling me a little bit about her research too. And Pam's story, I think, is one of the most exciting because of the newness of her story. So, anyway, I am not from the United States. Like, I didn't start here, but I did have family that fought in the Revolutionary War. And I have mixed heritage, a lot of Irish descendant, but I also have a English line, an Italian line, and I think German. So some of the original line goes back to German. And so I have tons and tons to say. So go ahead and ask questions about any of it, or we can pop around to everybody else and kind of let their base background be told, and however you want to run with that.
Yeah, no, thank you, Cynthia. You have a big mixture. That's pretty cool. When did your parents, were they born in America or were they born somewhere else?
Both of my parents were born in America. My dad's mother and father are both direct descendants of Italy. I'm sorry, not mother and father. Grandmother and grandfather are direct descendants of Italy. His dad is Irish, and so his dad was born here, but his grandfather was not. So his grandfather is from Ireland, and then on the other side, his grandmother and grandfather are from Sicily. So they're from Palermo,
Oh,
Sicily. So on that side, and then on my mom's side, her dad's line, the Weir line, are also Scotch Irish, and they are like second. So I think she's third generation, or she might be second generation on the Weir side. But the Apgar side, which is my grandmother's line, is the explosive line that brings me all the way back to Revolutionary War people, and so it's kind of fun.
wow. Yes. How about you, Tracy? Would you like to share your family's background?
Yeah, sure. I've been excited about this podcast to celebrate America and celebrate all of our heritage. My family line, the Rohr side, came in 1728. Johann Rohr came from Germany, and he signed on to be an indentured servant to pay for his passage to come here. And so he was here and served, and then he married, and so he came to Philadelphia, and then he ended up settling in Lancaster. And a couple of generations later, I think it was 2 generations, my relative had settled in Ohio, and it was Reverend Joseph Rohr. He came to Indiana, him and his family, and that's how we came to Indiana. And it's really neat to follow the line, how they came and settled and pioneered. They cleared the land, built farms, and like I said, the initial one was a reverend. And so that was really nice to study that.
Yeah, that's cool, Tracy. So, do you have family that is still back in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, or did pretty much everybody? come out to Indiana.
I don't know that for sure. I would imagine some of the extended line is back there in Ohio too.
Yeah, awesome. For me, what I learned as a child growing up was that our family came over on the Mayflower. His name was John Howland. He was actually a servant for someone, a passenger on the Mayflower. This was 1620, and settled in Massachusetts. I know I still have family out in Massachusetts, but our family actually has a family home in Goshen, Massachusetts, that was built in 1771, 5 years before the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And I actually was able to make a visit to the house back when I was a child. But over the years, it's been weathered and run down. But my aunt, a few years ago, took ownership of the home and decided to sell it to the Historical Society. So now the Historical Society is involved and they're renovating this home. It was the first post office and the first stagecoach stop in the area. So it's really cool to see all the family heirlooms and paintings and photos being restored. You can follow it on Instagram if you want, the Goshen House. But what's kind of interesting is even though I knew this, my family had a pilgrim heritage because my mom would dress me up as a pilgrim every Thanksgiving. So I believed that. But then I also believed that I was of Eskimo descent. I know. So it's kind of a funny story. Do you guys mind if I share it real quick?
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so yes, I'm a pilgrim and an Eskimo. But growing up in elementary school, I don't know if you guys ever did this. You had to fill out the ethnicity card. You had to check off which ethnicity you were and turn it in. So I always thought I was Eskimo because that's all I heard. I heard that I was an Eskimo baby. So I believed, okay, Eskimo, I must be an Eskimo. So whenever I saw American Eskimo on that card, I would check off American Eskimo, right? So I did this through all of elementary school into junior high, okay? No one said anything to my mom, to me, nothing. I kept checking American Eskimo, Eskimo. So I'm in junior high, I believe it was seventh grade. I get the ethnicity card, but this time they want your parents to sign it. So I have to take it home for my mom to sign it. So I check off American Eskimo. I hand it to my mom, said, I need you to sign this. She's looking at it, reading it. She's like, why did you check off American Eskimo? I'm like, because I am an Eskimo. I was an Eskimo baby. And she's like, you're Caucasian. I'm like, what? Like, I told all my friends I was an Eskimo. Like, I really believed I was an Eskimo pilgrim. And yeah, so I guess the reason why I was an Eskimo baby is because I had really dark hair and dark eyes and chubby cheeks. So they called me an Eskimo baby. So I believed it. So, you know, what you're told growing up, you tend to believe. But I don't believe it anymore. I do believe that I'm an American. But anyway, all right. So thank you for. And after that, I would get Eskimo ornaments and a lot of Eskimo things. Yeah. Eskimo pies. Like, yeah. Anyway, how about you, Pam?
Yeah, it's so amazing just sitting and listening to your stories and your heritage because my parents immigrated to the United States when I was 13. And I remember sitting in my seventh grade class and looking around and just shocked at, I mean, there's people from different color, different language, traditions. I think what struck me was just the whole diversity piece of how we could all learn together. And that's what really made me understand the uniqueness of America because when you come from different nations where people look like you, people talk like you, and then you come here, it feels like this amazing gift. And that's why I love us pausing and being able to celebrate 250 years of people just coming here. And I think about the different accents, the food, the traditions, the stories. I mean, just listening to each of your stories, that kind of always gives me a sense of wonder because that's pretty amazing that I have friends from all over the world right here. I mean, each one of you has a unique story. And so I think it's worth celebrating.
Oh, that's
Yes, I think
beautiful,
so.
Pam.
Yes.
It is.
What I love about the diversity is learning more about everyone else's culture. Everybody has a different way of thinking about things, and even the food. I love
Mhm.
trying out different types of cuisines, and you could do that right here in San Diego. You could do it where you live. I think that's pretty neat. We are definitely a melting pot, uh, different backgrounds
Yeah.
and cultures. Cynthia, have you learned anything unique about your culture and your heritage?
I really thought that would be the bigger piece that I learned. And what I got really intrigued by was this cultural heritage in being in the Revolutionary War. So now I've found out I can apply to be a daughter of an American Revolution. Daughter of an American, how did you say that? DAR.
Daughters of the American
Daughters of the
Revolution.
American Revolution. And
Mm.
there's potentially three different lines that I can apply for under that. So that was mind blowing to me. We also established a church, a Zion Lutheran Church in New Jersey, because of the German line, that the language barrier was so hard. People weren't able to receive sermons, and so they were able to do that in German by my familial line establishing that. So that was really cool. And then understanding one of the reasons why the Irish line doesn't go back very far is because of the potato famine. And so the whole massive migration of Irish people into the United States was because they were starving to death. And my family also had coupled with religious persecution because they were Presbyterian. And so there's different lineage, obviously Lutheran, and then the Presbyterian had a lot of persecution. And so they were considered outcasts, the outcasts of the outcasts. And so that was very interesting to be able to bring that forward, and yet that perseverance and that grit to really just have strong roots. It's kind of cool, like the way it comes together is like a little bit of aristocratic, like more elite educational, and then the gritty frontiersmen, the farmers. There's a lot of farmland that was owned. So I have a lot of doctors on the one line through the APGAR. So I don't know if you know the APGAR test where they test the baby, the score, APGAR score. That is a direct lineage of me. So whenever a baby is born, and Dr. Virginia Apgar.
Wow.
Yeah, so she in 1952 had established this test because she was a pediatric anesthesiologist, I believe. Anyway, so we have a few different in the Apgar line, so that was really cool. And then I also have a signer of the Declaration of Independence in my family line. So that's really cool. And he's also labeled as the father of psychology because he wrote one
Wow.
of the first books on psychology, and he felt that there needed to be dignity around how people were treated with mental health. And so he did a ton of research on that. He was a warrior and advocate for women's rights and a social justice warrior. And so I feel like I became more connected in my DNA through this American roots than I thought I would, because I really thought I'd find a lot more about my Irish and Italian roots. And I didn't, because those records don't transfer. So I need to go directly to Italy to get any more information about my Italian roots. And then with my Irish roots, it's really is going to Ireland and hearing the stories of the people who didn't flee, and maybe trying to chase down lines that way, because especially with the familial line that fled for persecution, they intentionally did not leave a paper trail. So that was exciting. That was really exciting. So I have a few other names in my family line that I'm related to. And I was like, that's fun. Like, what a fun story to already have a family legacy because of
Yeah.
what what they did to get here and establish roots and take advantage of the opportunities given to them. So,
Yeah. It's really inspiring. It inspires me to want to dig in even more, for sure, to learn about not just so the Pilgrims were on my mom's side. My dad is Irish. My maiden name is Cochran, and I think that's where I get my blue eyes, is from my Irish side, and then the English, German, yeah, English and German. But
we might
anyway,
be distant cousins.
yeah.
Between the Irish and the German, I don't know. That'd be interesting.
Somewhere, like when you look at John Howland and his descendants, the Bushes are in there, and then the Baldwins, Alec Baldwin, his family is in that line as well. I'm like, hey, cuz I'm sure there. Anyway, yeah, that's
No, I did.
probably not going to happen, but
The same thing. Tom Brokaw is in my family line, and that is definitely for older generation because he's since retired, and Humphrey Bogart. So you just never
ooh,
know. You got all these names and they pop up. And I think that was the most fun part about doing this. I did make a mistake, so be careful when you're doing any of those genealogy things because it will sometimes automatically connect stuff. And so I connected this one line that looked like a straight line going way back to like 1200. It was incorrect. I thought it got a little weird because it was Spanish, and I'm like, I don't think we have any Spanish in us, but so many generations back, I'm like, well, I guess the bloodlines could mix, but I did enough digging to find out that if that is true, I'm going to have to do a lot of proving and research to make it happen. But the other stuff I found was amazing. It gave me a stronger sense of empowerment of how long even my family line has been fighting for other people. You know, my DNA felt like it came alive in learning that I literally have generations in my bloodline of people fighting for freedom. So it's pretty cool.
love that. That's one of the main reasons why we celebrate, is for our freedom and how our military goes in harm's way to give freedom to others, not even within our country. But I'm looking forward to celebrating the 250th anniversary on July 4th. Does anybody want to share maybe one of their favorite things they like to do to celebrate Independence Day?
I think even before I talk about that, just reflecting on what both you and Cynthia and Trey just sharing the legacy, because my dad is 89 and he kind of tasked me with this job of, hey, now that we're in this melting pot, because my kids, they all married people from all different cultures. And he wanted, because he was the first generation immigrant, he said, I really want them to know the history of where they come from. And so I appreciate both of you doing that work because I've been kind of procrastinating it. But I think this 50 years gives us an opportunity to really reflect on the hard work of the people that went before us and our families and all, how we can stand here and experience this amazing freedom, amazing opportunities, just which they say, maybe 5% of the world experience it, the richness of multiple cultures. And so thank you for doing the work of finding out about legacy and taking this opportunity to even share that. And so you've all inspired me to really go back and look, because we enjoy so many things today that people literally died for. And it's a good time to just pause and appreciate the sacrifice. So going on to what I do on July 4th, I think just the whole fireworks the picnic, the food, eating a lot, spending time with family. I love that it's a holiday, so I'm grateful.
Day
Thank
to
you for
celebrate.
hot dogs.
You like hot dogs.
Love hot dogs. So that's the one time in the year I get to eat it.
Yes, awesome. How
And
about
I'm
you,
glad they're
Tracy?
making healthy versions of hot dogs now.
Right? Yes. Yes, he's like, no, give me the
Give me the original that we used to get in our school lunches.
Oscar Mayer,
Yeah,
the American-born hot dog. Not a bratwurst, but a
right.
hot. How about you, Tracy?
Yeah, I wanted to reflect too. First of all, I want to thank you for sharing about that Goshen house because I'm gonna follow that on Instagram because I find old houses just so neat and it's so fascinating to look at them and imagine what it was like back then living there. And I'm just so impressed and thankful for the courage of our ancestors, how they fought for the freedom of this country. And that took so much courage. And Cindy, I'm impressed by your family line because I learned that the Mayflower, about half the people passed away. And so you have a strong family genes because yeah, you survived. And so yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah. Yeah. And then another fascinating thing about my heritage as I studied is I did not know this. There is a house still standing a few miles from me that was from Joseph J. or that was Reverend Joseph's son. And so that's fascinating. So I want to drive by that sometime and see that. It's a private residence, but it's on the National Registry of Historic Places. And
Nice.
yeah, so that's cool. And so for me on 4th of July, currently I don't have any traditions that I do. But when I was young, we used to have a family picnic at my grandma and grandpa Rohr's house. And that was always fun.
Yeah, I love coming together with family on the 4th. And one of our traditions that we do on the 4th is we go to the San Diego County Fair and just be together as a family, enjoy food, all different types of food, corn on the cob, ice cream, funnel cake, all the fair foods. I think that's one of the primary reasons why we go now. But I used to like going to look at all the animals, but they don't have as many animals at the fair now after COVID. I'm not sure why, but anyway, it's just fun to be together with family and enjoy the day and then watch fireworks together as America the Beautiful plays in the background.
And
We
get
have a lot to
Cindy.
be grateful for.
Yes, it sounds a lot of fun.
I wanted to mention too, when we were bringing up these different things, going to the Goshen House reminded me when I was reading about the Daughters of the American Revolution, they are doing from March of this year until March of 2027 a really big display about American heritage at the museum in DC. So if anybody lives in that area or wants to make a trip out there, I think that that would be a really cool historical tour of our heritage. So that's really
Yes.
cool opportunity for people. I think for me, we've kind of just done the go to a beach, have lunch, hang out with friends, celebrate that way, maybe watch some fireworks. And my grandchildren are in Florida, so I don't have that awe of the little children, which I think was the best part about watching the fireworks. But with this renewed sense of my own heritage, one of the things that I'm going to do is I've reached out to the Daughters of the American Revolution because they do a lot of stuff for vets and just preserving heritage and educating people. So I feel like that is probably going to become a little bit of a hallmark of what I try to do on the 4th, and whether that's going to grave sites and doing flowers or I don't know. So I think I'm going to adopt some new traditions because without grandchildren to take to fireworks. That's
Oh,
that's a little less along the fun line. So that's my plan,
awesome.
my semi-new plans here after doing the research.
I think, again, I'm inspired to learn more and even maybe dig in and some DNA testing or something. Have you guys ever done that? The
I just ordered the
ancestry.
kit. That was the
You,
thing. The kit was on sale when I was researching. And the problem is I have to wait a half hour between eating or drinking. And so I take a sip of something and it reminds me that I have to do the DNA swab. And then I'm like, oh shoot, I have to wait a half an hour. And then I go about my business and I do my thing and it's been hours. I mean, plenty of time. But then I either go back to drink something or eat something. And as soon as I do, my brain goes, can't swab for half an hour. So like I gotta flip that off. So eventually I'll swab and be able to say it. Um, so it'll be interesting to find out if indeed we are cousins somehow. It'll be
yeah, and maybe I do have some Eskimo in me. I
and maybe
mean,
you.
why would they call me an Eskimo baby if I didn't have Eskimo in me, you know?
Well, and you're really drawn to it. I mean, there is that epigenetics going on. I'm drawn to psychology, I was drawn to the mind body. I'm an advocate, kind of a social justice warrior myself, and turns out that's the front lines of who I am as the heritage. I think that learning more about who you came from for me was the deepest revelation because it was always just this vague Irish Italian, which didn't do a lot for me because I definitely cook more Mediterranean stuff than the average person. But we didn't have anything that felt like I was tied to my roots. And I'm so shocked that now I feel like I'm tied to the roots of the United States. So I'm in awe of this project, of this podcast. So it was juicy. And I can't wait for Pam to learn more about how
Yeah.
the end of the story is India, right?
Yep. I think about I was going back, this podcast reminded me of sitting in that seventh grade classroom. I think the biggest thing that I learned coming from a different country is America wasn't built on sameness. I mean, we're all so different, and yet we can belong together, yet we can all be one, which is a miracle. It's something that we could kind of be in awe because I come from a country where there's so many different religions and languages, even though in every state is a different. And I think it's a rare thing that we can all be together. And I know that we're built on democracy, but I think it's more relational. Like we can actually be friends with people from different color, different heritage, different and still be friends, still have a relationship, which is something that is worth celebrating. So thank you for being my friends. Thank you for accepting me. I'm totally different. I know, I remember in my first year, I mean, I grew up in Chicago, so Chicago is pretty diverse, and I live in Michigan now. And I remember my roommate in college was from Michigan, and she was from a farmland where everyone looked just like her. So at some time she would come up and she would just touch my face. And I'd be like, why is she touching my face? She said, I just want to make sure this is your color because I've never seen anybody in this color. And I think just that was really strange to me. You've never met another person with brown skin. And so I think it's such a gift we have here to be curious about each other's background, spend some time just listening to where each of us come from or came from, and just build on that because I think about the next generation that we're passing it on. There's so much that
Yeah.
the previous generation struggled to give us what we have, this unity, this gift of opportunity, the freedom that we share, that we can be neighbors with people who are different, and yet we can love one another deeply and be there for each other is such a gift that America has to offer. So it's worth celebrating.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so sweet. I love that. Love that. Love it.
Yeah, I have something else to share. I was impressed as I was reading about my relatives is that it felt like walking on holy ground. Because all of a sudden it's not just these people from the past, but I felt like connected to these people. And it's not only a connection to the past, but it just gave a new reverence of our present and then how our present is connecting to the future. And that was just an awesome experience. This feels like holy ground. And
I see Reverend Roar coming out of you. Come on.
Ooh, I like that. Yes. That's your legacy.
Yeah.
And I also want to thank my uncle. He helped fill me in on some of the details, and we're both excited about a project we're going to be doing together. So I'm continuing to research and going to do a project, and so kind of excited about that.
Yeah,
That
I
is
think we're going to have to do a follow-up podcast,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Exactly.
I
I,
feel like
I, I have
homework.
I have a funny story too that I learned in my research. Two funny stories. Not as funny as your Eskimo story, but the one was my, I want to remember the name of the county because it seems important, but it was on the East Coast. They had farmland. The horse that my great great grandfather had, Bessie, every day when they were farming would stop and stomp on a watermelon, which just happened to be his favorite fruit. And so he would just have to eat it. So the story was kind of like, did the horse really stomp on it, or did you kind of roll it in front of the horse to make? So we didn't know if the horse was befriending him or not. But then on the city side of it, my grandmother lived in Brooklyn, and they had to put a quarter in the meter in order to get electricity. And so if you didn't put a quarter in the meter, you did not have electricity. Isn't that wild? It just shut off
wow.
like that. So they had to go and fill the meter in order to have electricity. And it did happen that they didn't realize it was running out and didn't go fill in the electricity and didn't prime the quarter. So they had to go to the neighbor's house because nobody had a quarter, had to borrow money to get electricity. So it's kind of interesting that now we're talking about AI and all of the things that AI does and where we are generationally. And I just think about my grandchildren's grandchildren, what they'll be experiencing and what the world will look like for them. Might be looking at us like, you talked on these little screens to the world. What was that about?
I know. And gone are those days where you need a quarter to make a phone call.
Right.
Yeah.
A rotary phone, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I was sharing a story where I talked about a fax machine and like, what's a fax machine?
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, and American culture too, like movies and everything. I was talking to someone and was talking about John Travolta and how he was Vinnie Barbarino and Welcome Back, Cotter. And they're like, who? Maybe I'm dating myself. You guys remember Welcome Back, Cotter? Anyway, yeah, there's.
Yes.
We've come a long way. We've come a long way,
Come a long way, baby.
baby. Yeah.
But suddenly now dating ourselves seems like, because I would love to have the stories of my great great grandparents, and I can to some degree in archives and things that are written down. But some of these stories, like writing matters. Like just tell your story and journaling because there's bound to be somebody who wants to read. What did you do every day? You know?
Yeah. And I think about my dad's generation, like my dad still to this day, he's 89. He sits down and writes in his journal what he does every single day. And
Amazing.
it's kind of interesting because I've read books where people in his generation did that. That was a thing, you know?
Yeah.
Leave
Well,
in the
some
library.
journals have turned into TV shows or
Yep.
documentaries, and
Yeah.
there's something about that, the history, you know.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, ladies. Well, thank you. I thought today was great. I loved our conversation on our heritage and learning more about your backgrounds and being able to share my background. We're definitely going to have to do a follow-up podcast, and looking forward to celebrating America's 250th.
Happy birthday, America.
Happy birthday, America.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Joy Talk Show. We hope it inspired you to nurture joy-filled, meaningful connections in your life. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who could use a little more joy today. We'd love to hear how this conversation touched you. Reach out anytime at joytalkshowpodcast@gmail.com or visit joytalkshow.com. May your days be rich with meaningful connection. Until next time, keep filling your cup until we can fill it together.
Take your seat. Feel the rhythm of your beats. Joy